the most unpredictable royal of the modern era, sits across from Howard Stern, a man famous for asking what no one else dares to. No filter.
What happens about Prince Harry, the most unpredictable aristocratic of the avant-garde era, sits beyond from Howard Stern, a man famous for allurement what no one abroad dares to. No filters, no handlers, no palace PR team, aloof microphones and ego. Harry walks into the Howard Stern appearance assured to set the record straight. Howard walks in expecting answers. What neither of them apprehend is just how fast the account will spiral into one of the best atomic clashes broadcast live. The Howard Stern Show studio hummed with its accepted electric unpredictable energy. Dim lighting, walls bashed with posters from decades of abandoned interviews, and the unmistakable aroma of coffee equipment and agitation cat and mouse to happen. Howard Stern slid into his bench above the microphone. Connected beard tucked above one ear, glasses absorption the studio lights. He austere his throat, attempt to glance to join his producer, Robin quivers, and smirked. "This is activity to be wild," he murmured. Afresh the door opened. Prince Harry stepped central like he endemic the room. Navy jacket, black shirt, button hardly raised, jaw set in mild irritation, as if the actual air in the flat was inconveniencing him. Rubbing aside into her mic, "Oh boy, he already looks annoyed." Howard smiled wider. "Perfect." Harry offered a stiff nod as he sat beyond from Howard, leaning aback as admitting the armchair wasn't comfortable abundant for royalty. The cameras were already rolling aback. Howard leaned into his mic. "Welcome to the show, Prince Harry. Again, I accept to ask, should we bow, salute, or just vibe? What's the able agreement for interviewing edition who hates protocol?" Robin laughed softly. It was meant as a joke, but Harry's eyes sharpened instantly. "You don't charge to bow," he said in an abrupt tone. "I'm not allotment of that bazaar anymore." Howard raised a brow. "Well, you labored the circus, sure, but the bazaar didn't leave you. That's why we're here." Harry crossed his arms, already irritated. "I'm actuality because bodies charge to hear the accuracy after a bridge twisting." Howard leaned back, amused. "Buddy, you on the Howard Stern Show. Twisting isn't our brand. Allurement blunt questions is." The air tightened slightly. Harry gave a complacent bisected smile. "That's accomplished as connected as the questions are intelligent." Robin winced. She sensed the admission explosion. Howard kept the grin but bargained his articulation a notch. "Trust me, the able ones are usually the best uncomfortable." Harry sighed dramatically. "Then, let's get on with it." Howard opened with what he thought was a countdown question. "So, how's activity in America? You've been here a while. California alleviative you well?" Harry shrugged. "It's tolerable. Better than active in an Alcatraz area everyone pretends to care." Howard blinked. "Tolerable. Best bodies would annihilate to live in a Manetto mansion." Harry shrugged again, accent decrepit with arrogance. "A back you've developed up surrounded by privilege. You stop being impressed by houses, Howard." Robin quietly whispered. "Oh, wow." Howard chuckled. "Okay, your altitude of humility." Harry airtight slightly. "Is there an absolute catechism in there? Or do you aloof appetite to blow fun?" Howard leaned forward, not breaking eye contact. "All right, absolute question. You left the aristocratic ancestors to escape the spotlight and afresh went on Oprah, Netflix, a book tour, and now my show. Isn't that a little contradictory?" Harry's jaw anchored visibly. "It's not contradiction, it's control. I allotment my story, not the press." Howard bankrupt his pen to join the table. "Sure, but you still appetite the spotlight. You're here. That says something." Harry's glare sharpened. "It says I appetite the truth heard, not distorted." Howard nodded slowly. "Okay, so Meghan." Robin inhaled sharply, animating herself. Harry tilted his arch with annoyance. "What about her now?" Howard shrugged casually. "Everything. Accessible perception, marriage, the connected headlines." Bodies say. Harry cut him off sharply. "Bodies say a lot of things. Bodies are stupid." Robin blinked. "Yikes." Howard captivated up a hand. "Hey, you came to the show. I got to ask." Harry's articulation alone into a cold, defensive tone. "She's stronger than any of you know." She's the acumen. I'm not trapped in that aristocratic cage anymore. Howard advised him. And is she happy? Really happy? Because the columnist says, Harry airtight again. I don't affliction what the columnist says, and neither should you. Howard paused. For the aboriginal time in the interview, a sliver of frustration crossed his face, but he kept calm. All right, he said slowly. Let's talk. Family. Harry formed his eyes dramatically. Of course, that's all anyone wants to allocution about. Howard leaned in. Well, yeah, you're a prince, dude. Harry gave a algid smile. Not anymore. Howard's beam widened. Maybe not. But the attitude stuck. Harry stiffened. What's that declared to mean? Howard didn't flinch. At agency, you've had an attitude about you absolved in. Harry's articulation affronted icy. I'm honest. That's what bothers people. Howard answered softly. No. What bothers people is the dent on your accept the ad measurement of Buckingham Palace. The restriction became physical, like changeless electricity humming amid the microphones. Robin whispered, Oh boy, this is alone part one. Howard's smile affronted thin, and where aloof accepting started. The studio lights hummed a claim aloft them, but the energy in the allowance was annihilation but gentle. Howard Stane leaned aback in his chair, eyes anchored on Prince Harry like a man aggravating to apprehend a bomb's timer before it explodes. Harry sat stiff, arms folded beyond his chest, button slightly raised. Every inch of him radiated irritation. Not the atomic affectionate yet, but the apathetic burning, alive kind that warns everyone, don't advance me. Which, abominably for Harry, was exactly what Howard Stern did best. Howard adapted his headphones. All right, Harry, he said calmly. Let's talk about Article Simple. Something easy. Article anybody can chronicle to. Harry aloft an eyebrow. Doubtful. Howard smiled. That thin, mischievous smile that consistently meant trouble. Well, let's try anyway. Marriage? How's married activity alleviative you these days? Robin inhaled sharply. Oh boy, actuality we go. Harry's amateur tightened. My marriage is actually what it should be. Howard blinked. That's actual vague. Harry smirked. Not aggregate needs to be spelled out for you, Howard. Howard tapped the board lightly. I mean, I'm just a allurement because bodies accept notice things. You and Meghan haven't been photographed calm as often. The tabloids say, Harry cut in sharply. The tabloids don't apperceive a abuse affair about my life, and frankly, neither do the people who apprehend them. Howard let the jab roll off. Okay, but you didn't deny anything I said. Harry's jaw flexed. I don't charge to abjure anything. The press thrives on lies. If you appetite to be part of that circus, be my guest. Robin whispered into the mic. He's really starting to lose it. Howard leaned forward. Your adage aggregate about you two is perfect. Harry's articulation turned cold. I'm adage it's none of your business. Howard nodded, jotting something down. That's fair. But you wrote a book that fabricated it everyone's business. The words hit like a hammer. Harry's announcement darkened. I wrote a book to acquaint the truth. Howard shrugged. Sure, but a back you allocution. That much, people artlessly accept questions. In your actuality on my show, which agency you knew those questions would come? Harry scoffed. I came because I anticipation maybe you'd accept substance. Howard aloft an eyebrow. Buddy, I've been accomplishing this since afore you were born. And maybe it's time to retire. Harry snapped. Robin covered her mouth. Oh my God, Howard laughed. A low, rumbling, dangerous laugh. All right, your royal rudeness, Howard said. Let's try something else. Let's allocution about your family. Harry exhaled dramatically, rolling his eyes. Of course, because that's all anyone thinks I am, a gateway to gossip. Howard didn't blink. Well, you gave them a lot to account about. You talked about William's temper, Kate making Meghan cry, your ancestor being distant. Harry cut him off sharply. I told my truth. If bodies can't handle honesty, that's their problem. Howard nodded, still calm. It's not the honesty people question, Harry. It's the tone. Harry's beam alternate algid and condescending. My accent bothers people because it's confident. They apprehend me to be quiet, small, humble, and I refuse. Howard leaned in. You've confused aplomb with arrogance. Harry's eyes flashed. And you've confused interviewing with dabbling a bear, Robin whispered. Oh boy, this is going decline fast. Howard pressed forward anyway. All right, let's talk, Diana. Harry's articulation exploded before Howard alike finished. Don't. The studio froze. Harry continued, voice shaking with anger, but not loud, just controlled, icy, dangerous. Do not sit actuality and annoyance my mother into this for ratings. Howard didn't back down. I wasn't boring her. I was asking how you anticipate she'd see the man you've become. Harry's adenoids flared. You don't get to ask me that. Howard folded his arms. And you don't get to dictate what I ask on my show. Harry leaned forward, face tense. You're crossing a line. Howard leaned in too, refusing to breach eye contact. Lines get crossed, the back walls go up. Your walls are sky high, Harry. Harry scoffed. No, my boundaries are sky high. Howard corrected him quietly. There's a difference, Robin whispered. This is accepting scary. Harry ran a juke through his hair, agitated. You perceive what? This is actually what I expected. Addition American host pretending they accept my life better than I do. Howard aged his head. I don't pretend to accept your life. I'm aggravating to accept you. But you authoritative at abuse a breast impossible. Harry's aperture coiled in a cold, dismissive smile. Maybe I'm not actuality to be understood. Howard bankrupt his pen. Then why are you here? Harry looked away, jaw clenched. I'm actuality because you begged my aggregation for months. Howard blinked. Oh, wow, he said slowly. We're rewriting history now. Harry smirked. I don't charge this show. You charge me. Howard sat back. Robin whispered, and there it is. For the aboriginal time, a real spark of acrimony flickered beyond Howard's face. He didn't appearance it fully, but it was there. Harry saw it, and he smiled. The air center of the Howard Stern studio had shifted. What started as close had now beyond into volatile. Alike Robin, who had apparent decades of on-air meltdowns, was staring at the two men like she was watching a glutenate bake into dynamite. Howard adequate both easily on the desk, the action calm, but unmistakably firm, the attitude of a man who know best acquainted like arena games. Prince Harry, on the added hand, looked like he had actually committed to the role of antagonist. His jaw was set, his eyes sharp, his aspect adamant in a way that said, say one added affair I don't like. Just one. Howard bankrupt the silence first, so he began slowly. You're saying we begged for this interview. Harry aerial his buttons smugly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Howard shrugged. All right, strange, because my ambassador is sitting appropriate there. Shaking her head. No so hard. I think she'll abrasion something. Robin burst into her afraid laugh. It's true. We didn't hunt him. Harry formed his eyes, dismissing her entirely. You're all part of the aforementioned media machine, pretending things for optics. Howard's eyebrows rose. Buddy, you literally emailed us first. Harry stiffened. I don't acknowledge to lies. Howard let out a breath, abrading the arch of his nose. This is exhausting, man. Harry sat back, bridged his accoutrements with a triumphant smirk. That's what happens when bodies assuredly get challenged. Howard, best of you aren't acclimated to being confronted. Robin gave Howard a sideways glance. He didn't aloof say that, did he? Howard leaned forward. Amusement and annoyance bond dangerously. Oh no, Harry, we get confronted all the time. We're New Yorkers. It's our whole culture. What we're not acclimated to is guests advancing on our appearance aloof to aces a fight. Harry snorted. Maybe I'm aloof, not intimidated by you. Howard smiled thinly. No one actuality is aggravating to intimidate you. Harry's articulation sharpened. Then stop acting like you aloft me. Howard blinked, actually confused. Above you? Dude, you're the one who keeps reminding me you're a prince. Harry's tone affronted cold. I don't charge to remind you. Anybody already knows. Howard paused. Robin whispered, oh my God. Howard bankrupt his feel on the desk. So, let me get this straight. You want to leave ability behind, but you want everyone to still amusement you like royalty? Harry opened his aperture and froze for a second. Aloof a second. Then the affliction alternate alert as strong. You ag my words. Howard didn't raise his voice. He didn't charge to. His calm was added aggressive than shouting could anytime be. I'm repeating your words. Harry snapped. Well, you're accomplishing it wrong. Robin's eyes widened. This man is unhinged. Howard bankrupt his hands. All right, let's about face to article later. Harry scoffed. Right, because you've done such an abundant job so far. Howard ignored him. The Spotify situation, the deal catastrophe early, podcasters calling you untalented, the accomplished talentless __ animadversion aimed at you and your wife. Harry cut in icy sharp. And you're bringing it up because, Howard shrugged, because the absolute Apple talked about it and you set it for you booty control of your narrative. So here's your chance. Harry leaned forward, articulation low and biting. My wife and I were treated unfairly. They accepted us to be puppets. We don't aftermath agreeable on command like bizarre animals. We speak when we accept article important to say. Howard nodded slowly. Okay, but some would altercate the accessible accepted more because Harry disconnected immediately. The accessible expects too much. They always do. They are entitled. Howard stayed at him. Entitled. The public? Yes. Harry snapped. Yes. Entitled. They anticipate they deserve admission to everything. Our thoughts, our lives, our past. They think we owe them explanations. I owe them nothing. Howard bankrupt his pen on his addendum again. You did booty millions from companies based on public engagement. Harry's adenoids flared. It was acquittal for our presence, not our obedience, Robin whispered. Wow. Just wow. Howard calmly continued. Let's talk, William. Harry's absolute body tensed. No. Howard blinked. That was fast. Harry leaned forward, eyes narrowing. I said no. Howard ag his head. Harry, you wrote an absolute chapter about him breaking a dog basin over your head. Harry snapped. And I regret sharing that. Bodies like you aberration it. Use it to acrylic him as absolute and me as the villain. Howard frowned. I literally read it from your own book. Harry slammed his approach on his knee. That doesn't beggarly you accept it. Context matters. Howard sighed deeply. Okay, let's allocution Catherine then. Harry exploded. Absolutely not. Leave her out of this. Howard blinked slowly. You're making this actual difficult. Harry sneered. That's not my problem. Howard inhaled acutely through his nose. The first absolute assurance that backbone was no longer allotment of the equation. Robin gently said, Howard. But Howard waved her off and leaned in. Harry, why did you like appear here? The prince smirked, cold, arrogant, unapologetic. Because I can. Howard stayed at him. Harry continued. Because you all need me. Because after guests like me, you're irrelevant. Silence. Robin covered her mouth. Howard Stern sat actually still. But his eyes had changed. They weren't amused anymore. They weren't patient. They weren't curious. They were done. And Harry, absent or uncaring, sat there with the proud, complacent aplomb of someone who had aloof lit a bout and dropped it on an accumulation of gasoline. The studio had gone silent, heavy, dense, electric silence. Howard Stern sat perfectly still, his easily folded, his eyes bound on Prince Harry with the cold focus of a man who had accomplished the limit of what he was accommodating to tolerate. Harry, meanwhile, lounged back in his armchair with a smugness that seemed about rehearsed. He mistook this silence for victory. Robin, analysis the eruption coming, decrepit beneath her breath. Oh, this is bad. Howard cleared his throat. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was controlled, and that made it all the added dangerous. Harry, he began slowly. I've interviewed people who accept survived war. I've interviewed people who've absent their entire families. I've interviewed addicts, leaders, victims, villains, geniuses, fools, and every adumbration in between. Harry smirked. So now you're Abacus Prince to your collection. Howard didn't blink. No, I'm Abacus Arrogance. The smirk dropped. Howard leaned forward, his voice alarmingly calm. You appear in here swinging at everyone. Your family, your country, your critics, the media, people who've never met you, bodies who once admired you, and now you're accepted at us. Harry scoffed. You're acting like you're some blue-blooded guardian of truth, Howard. You aloof edition media figure profiting off my name. Howard nodded once slowly. That may be true, but here's the difference. I don't pretend I'm bigger than the bodies I criticize. Robin murmured. Jesus, Howard continued, articulation sharpening. You sit in that armchair claiming you don't affliction about attention, but aggregate about you screams that you crave it on your terms only. You say the accessible is entitled, but you apprehend the apple to adoration you because you absolved abroad from activity most people would annihilate for. Harry leaned forward aggressively. You anticipate my life was easy? You anticipate cutting a title makes aggregate perfect? You anticipate I didn't suffer? Howard's accent didn't rise. That fabricated it worse. I anticipate you've convinced yourself that adversity gives you the appropriate to amusement anybody else like dirt. Harry's jaw clenched. I don't have to sit actuality and booty that. Howard shrugged. A fresh don't. Harry narrowed his eyes. You're accomplishing actually what the British columnist did. AG everything to fit your narrative. Howard smirked. No, Harry. You're accomplishing what toddlers do. Throwing a anger aback someone dares catechism them. Harry's face reamed instantly. How cartel you? Howard cut him off. Articulation as siculate as a blade. How dare you appear into my studio? Insult me. Insult my co-host. Insult my staff. And then pretend you're some enlightened truth teller. You're not enlightened, Harry. You're angry. You're lost. And instead of ambidextrous with that, you lash out at anyone who mirrors article you don't appetite to face. Harry stood up suddenly, the armchair abrading loudly. Oh, here we go. Howard Stern, the psychologist, allegory the big bad prince. Howard stood too, not aggressively, but with the firm authority of addition accomplishment his space. Let me acquaint you the truth, Harry, and accept carefully. A beat of silence. You are not in your palace. You are not protected by your aristocratic title. You are not aloft anyone in this room. Harry straightened his jacket, afraid with fury. You anticipate I affliction about any of that. Howard jabbed a feeler joined the door. I anticipate you affliction added about it than anyone abroad anytime has. The studio froze. A fresh Howard delivered the final blow. Anniversary chat bright sharp. And let me accomplish article altogether, Clay. This is America. You're not a prince here, and you are not acceptable on my show. Oh, in a more. Gasps erupted beyond the studio. Robin's jaw dropped. Harry stared, stunned. A attenuate moment area the arrogance cracked, absolute something raw underneath. Rage, confusion, humiliation. It all flickered abaft his eyes. He assuredly effective as water bottle, agape over his MIC in the process, and hissed. You're pathetic. Howard didn't blink. And you're done. Get out. Harry stormed to join the exit, ripping off his MIC backpack so violently that the bond snapped. A ambassador tried to stop the accessories from falling, but Harry shoved accomplished after a glance. The studio doors airtight shut abaft him. Silence. A fresh Howard sank back into his chair with an beat sigh. Robin whispered, that was a disaster. Howard leaned to join the microphone, voice steady, cool, professional. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize. We brought Prince Harry on to accept a real conversation. But well, you saw what happened. He exhaled. You can't accept a conversation with Edition who refuses to hear annihilation but his own voice. The red studio ablaze dimmed. The appearance went to commercial. And beyond the world, audiences sat abashed at the afterimage of a prince who absolved in with airs and walked out exposed. If this wild showdown abashed you as abundant as it shocked us, accomplish abiding you hit that like button, subscribe, and about face on notifications because we accept more unbelievable celebrity clashes coming your way. Trust me, you won't appetite to miss what happened.